The year was 2387, and Ambassador Lisa Morgan stood at the massive window of New Geneva Station, watching ships from 100 different worlds dock and depart. Earth's orbital diplomatic station buzzed with activity as aliens of every shape and size conducted business. Some walked on two legs like humans, others floated in environment suits filled with strange gases, and a few moved on mechanical limbs that clicked against the metal floors. Lisa had been Earth's representative to the Galactic Federation for 8 years now. In all that time, she had learned one painful truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. They were nobody special, just another species among thousands, tolerated but not respected, permitted to exist, but not encouraged to grow. The Federation treated Earth like a child who had been given a seat at the adult table out of politeness. Humans could speak, but their words carried no weight. They could trade, but only in goods the major powers did not want for themselves. They could explore space, but only in areas already claimed and abandoned by others. Captain Jake Harrison felt this truth every day aboard his ship, the UES Discovery. The vessel was one of only 12 deep space exploration ships that Earth was allowed to operate beyond the Sol system. It was not because humans lacked the technology to build more ships. The Federation simply would not permit it. Jake stood on his bridge as the Discovery dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the Kepler system. His crew of 30 humans worked quietly at their stations, checking sensors and navigation systems. They had been sent to survey 3 uninhabited worlds that the Federation had marked as potential colony sites for Earth. It was busy work, Jake knew, but it kept humanity occupied and out of the way of more important species. "Captain," called out his sensor officer, Lieutenant Ben Cooper. "I'm reading something strange from the third planet. There are structures on the surface, but they're not supposed to be there according to our charts." Jake frowned and walked over to Ben's station. The young officer pointed at his screen, which showed heat signatures and metal readings from what should have been an empty world. Instead, there were clear signs of a settlement. "Take us in for a closer look," Jake ordered. "But keep our shields up and weapons ready." As the Discovery moved closer to the planet, the truth became clear and terrible. There was indeed a colony on the world's surface, but it was under attack. Fires burned across what had once been a peaceful farming settlement. Strange ships hovered over the burning buildings, their weapons still firing at anything that moved. "My God," whispered Jake's first officer, Commander Helen Price. "Those are civilian structures down there. Someone's attacking colonists." Jake studied the attacking ships on his main screen. They were long and black with sharp edges and weapon ports that glowed red. He recognized the design immediately. Vorthak warships. The Vorthak Collective was one of the galaxy's most aggressive military powers, known for enslaving weaker species and taking whatever they wanted by force. "Are there any survivors down there?" Jake asked. Ben worked his sensors frantically. "I'm reading life signs in the southern settlement. Maybe 200 people hiding in underground shelters, but the Vorthak are moving toward those positions." Jake made his decision quickly. "Helen, take us down. We're going to evacuate those people." "Sir?" Helen said carefully. "The Discovery isn't a warship. We have only basic defensive weapons. If the Vorthak decide to fight us, then we'll have to hope they don't," Jake replied. "I'm not leaving innocent people to die while we run away." The Discovery descended through the planet's atmosphere as smoke and fire rose from the devastated colony below. Jake could see the Vorthak ships clearly now. There were 6 of them, each twice the size of his vessel. As the Discovery approached the southern settlement, one of the alien warships turned to intercept them. A harsh voice crackled over the communication system, speaking in the common galactic language that all spacefaring species were required to learn. "Human vessel, you will withdraw immediately. This system is now under Vorthak control." Jake activated his own communications. "This is Captain Jake Harrison of the Earthship Discovery. We're here to rescue civilian survivors. We have no claim to this system." "There will be no survivors," the alien voice replied coldly. "This world and all others in this region belong to the Vorthak Collective. Your species was warned to stay away from our territory." "These people haven't done anything wrong," J.K. protested. "They're just farmers and families trying to make a life for themselves." The response came in the form of weapons fire. Red energy beams lanced out from the Vorthak ship, striking the Discovery's shields. Jake's ship shuddered under the impact and warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Return fire," Jake ordered, knowing it was useless. The Discovery's small defensive weapons barely scratched the Vorthak ship's armor. More enemy vessels began moving toward them. Jake realized with growing horror that he had led his crew into a trap they could not escape. The Discovery was outgunned and outnumbered. In minutes they would be destroyed, and the colonists below would die anyway. "Captain," Ben called out, urgently. "I'm getting a transmission from the planet. The survivors are trying to reach us." Jake activated the communication channel. A woman's voice, shaking with fear, came through the speakers. "Earth ship, please help us. They've been hunting us for hours. My children are down here. Please don't leave us." Jake looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were all young, all volunteers who had joined Earth's small space fleet to explore the stars and help their fellow humans reach for something better. Now they were going to die because they had tried to do the right thing. "All power to engines," Jake ordered. "We're getting out of here." "What about the survivors?" Helen asked. Jake's voice was bitter with defeat. "We can't help them if we're dead. Maybe we can bring back help." The Discovery accelerated away from the planet as more Vorthak ships moved to surround it. For a moment, Jake thought they might escape. Then the largest Vorthak vessel appeared directly in their path. It was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Discovery, bristling with weapons and armor. A new voice came over the communications, deeper and more commanding than the first. "I am Commander Zextar of the Vorthak War Fleet. You humans have made a serious mistake by coming here." Jake kept his voice steady despite his fear. "We're leaving your territory, Commander. We want no trouble with the Vorthak Collective." "Trouble has already found you," Zextar replied. "Your species continues to expand into space that belongs to stronger powers. This will no longer be tolerated. Today's lesson will be remembered by all humans who think they can claim what is not theirs." The massive Vorthak ship powered up its weapons, and Jake knew his crew had seconds to live. Then, unexpectedly, another voice broke through the communication channel. It was the woman from the planet's surface, her transmission somehow reaching the Vorthak commander. "Please," she begged. "We're not soldiers. We're just trying to raise our children. We'll leave if you want. Just don't kill us." There was a moment of silence. Then Zextar spoke again, his voice filled with cruel amusement. "No, human female. You will not leave. You will serve as an example to your species of what happens when they forget their place in the galaxy." Jake watched in helpless rage as the Vorthak ships turned their weapons toward the planet's surface. The energy beams that followed lit up the night sky like falling stars, each one ending a life that had committed no crime except existing in the wrong place at the wrong time. "Let the human ship go," Zextar commanded his fleet. "Let them carry word of what they have seen back to their little world. Let them tell their leaders what awaits any human who dares to expand beyond the boundaries we allow them." The Discovery limped away from the Kepler system, its crew silent with shock and grief. Behind them, the planet burned, and 200 innocent people were dead. Jake sat in his captain's chair and stared at the stars ahead, wondering how he would explain to Earth's leaders that humanity's children had been murdered while the galaxy watched and did nothing. The Discovery's journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. When they finally reached home, Jake found himself standing before Admiral Kate Sullivan and the entire Terran Defense Council. The room was filled with Earth's most important military and political leaders, all waiting to hear his report. Jake told them everything. He described the burning colony, the terrified families hiding underground, and Commander Zextar's cold promise that this was only the beginning. When he finished, the room was silent for a long moment. Finally, Admiral Sullivan spoke. "Captain Harrison, you and your crew showed courage in trying to help those people. The fact that we lack the power to protect our own citizens is not your failure. It's ours." Jake looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. For the first time since the massacre at Kepler, he saw something other than defeat in their eyes. He saw anger, and beneath that, something that looked like determination. "What happens now?" Jake asked. Admiral Sullivan stood up slowly, her eyes hard as steel. "Now, Captain, things are going to change. The galaxy thinks humanity is weak because we've been content to follow their rules and accept their limits. They're about to learn that there's a difference between being peaceful and being powerless." 3 months had passed since Captain Jake Harrison brought news of the Kepler massacre back to Earth. During those months, the galaxy had watched as the Vorthak Collective prepared for something much larger than a single attack on an isolated colony. Ambassador Lisa Morgan sat in her office on New Geneva Station, reading reports that made her stomach turn. Intelligence sources throughout the galaxy were sending the same message. The Vorthak were moving massive fleets toward 5 different human colony worlds. This was not going to be another small raid. This was going to be total war against humanity's expansion into space. Lisa tried one more time to reach the Galactic Federation's leadership. She requested an emergency meeting with Chancellor Vel Nara, the ancient alien who had ruled the Federation for over 2 centuries. The Chancellor's response came back within hours, delivered by a junior aide who could barely hide his boredom. "The Chancellor regrets that she cannot meet with Earth's representative at this time. The Federation's position remains unchanged. Territorial disputes between member species must be resolved through peaceful negotiation, not military intervention." Lisa crumpled the message in her hand. Peaceful negotiation. The Federation's leaders were willing to let human colonies burn, rather than anger one of the galaxy's major military powers. She activated her private communication system and sent an encrypted message to Earth. "They're not going to help us. We're on our own." On the colony world of New Austin, Colonel Ryan Mitchell received Earth's warning just 6 hours before the Vorthak attack began. 6 hours to prepare his small garrison of 300 soldiers for an invasion fleet that numbered in the thousands. Ryan stood on the observation deck of the colony's main defense station, watching as his people rushed to evacuate civilians to underground shelters. New Austin was home to 50,000 humans, most of them farmers and their families who had come here to build new lives away from Earth's crowded cities. They had never expected to become targets in an interstellar war. The first sign of the attack came when the colony's orbital sensors detected ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Ryan counted the contacts as they appeared on his screens. 20 Vorthak warships followed by 10 more, then 20 more. Within minutes, over 100 enemy vessels filled his sensor displays. "Sir," called out Sergeant Amy Johnson from her position at the communications station. "We're receiving the same reports from all 5 targeted colonies. The Vorthak have hit us simultaneously across 17 light-years of space." Ryan nodded grimly. This was a coordinated assault designed to destroy human expansion in a single devastating blow. The Vorthak were not just taking human worlds. They were making sure no other species would dare to challenge their territorial claims. The enemy fleet reached New Austin's outer atmosphere within 2 hours. Ryan's defenders were equipped with standard Federation-approved weapons, designed more for keeping peace among civilized species than fighting a real war. Against Vorthak military technology, they might as well have been throwing rocks. The first wave of enemy fighters screamed through the colony's airspace, their energy weapons carving through buildings like they were made of paper. Ryan watched from his command bunker as the agricultural center where his daughter had worked just that morning disappeared in a ball of fire. "All units, fall back to secondary positions," Ryan ordered over the communication network. "Don't try to stand and fight, hit them and move. Make them work for every inch." For 6 hours, Ryan's soldiers fought a losing battle against overwhelming odds. They destroyed a few enemy fighters and damaged some of the smaller Vorthak ground vehicles, but for every enemy they stopped, 10 more took its place. The colony's defenses crumbled piece by piece as the invaders advanced toward the civilian shelters. Ryan found himself in the colony's central plaza, surrounded by burning buildings and the wreckage of human dreams. His communication gear crackled, with reports from his remaining troops. 15 soldiers left out of 300. The Vorthak were closing in on the underground shelters where thousands of families waited in terror. "Earth Command, this is Colonel Mitchell," Ryan spoke into his radio, knowing it would probably be his last transmission. "New Austin has fallen. They're not just taking our worlds, they're erasing us. Tell our people back home that we died fighting. Tell them not to let this happen again." The explosion that ended Ryan's transmission was heard across the galaxy as news networks broadcast the final moments of the human colonies. 5 worlds, over 200,000 people, wiped out in a single day while the Galactic Federation watched and did nothing. On the Federation capital world, Emperor Talvesh of the Alterian Empire held a press conference. The ancient ruler whose species had dominated galactic politics for thousands of years addressed the attacks with cold political calculation. The recent actions by the Vorthak Collective, while regrettable, are understandable given the rapid expansion of newer species into disputed territories. The Alterian Empire calls for calm and measured responses to this tragic situation. The Zenith Consortium, the galaxy's largest corporate power, was even more direct in their statement. Their CEO, a cybernetically enhanced being known only as Director Prime, announced that the consortium was already calculating the economic opportunities in the now vacant star systems. The death of 200,000 humans was simply a business opportunity to them. But while the galaxy's leaders played politics with human lives, something was stirring in the depths of Earth's solar system that none of them knew about. Kro. Beneath the surface of the moon, in facilities that had been carved out of solid rock over 50 years ago, Dr. Nathan Price was activating systems that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Nathan had been working on Project Prometheus since he was a young scientist fresh out of university. For decades, he and his team had developed weapons and technologies far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. They had done this work in complete secrecy, hidden from both Earth's own government and the Federation's oversight committees. The project had been started after Earth's first contact with the galaxy, when it became clear that humanity was entering a universe filled with species that saw them as nothing more than useful servants or potential slaves. A small group of Earth's best scientists and military leaders had decided that humanity needed insurance against the day when being peaceful and cooperative would not be enough. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood beside Nathan in the Project Prometheus command center, watching as massive screens displayed information that would have terrified the galaxy's leaders if they had known it existed. Weapons capable of cracking planets, ships that could appear and disappear at will, artificial intelligence systems that could coordinate attacks across thousands of light years simultaneously. How long until the Ghost Fleet is ready? Admiral, Sullivan asked. Nathan checked his displays carefully. 12 ships are fully operational and ready for combat deployment. Each one carries enough firepower to destroy an entire star system if necessary. And the crews? Hand-picked from our best people. Veterans who understand what's at stake. Captain Emma Rodriguez will command the flagship UES Retribution. She lost her brother in the New Austin attack. She knows what needs to be done. Admiral, Sullivan nodded slowly. For 50 years, Earth had prepared for this moment while pretending to be a weak, peaceful species that posed no threat to anyone. The galaxy had seen humanity's carefully maintained facade and assumed it was the whole truth. They were about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. Meanwhile, on New Geneva Station, Ambassador Lisa Morgan continued to play her role as Earth's frustrated diplomatic representative. She attended Federation meetings where officials offered empty sympathy for the human losses, while making it clear that no help would be coming. She filed formal protests that were ignored and made speeches that no one listened to. But behind her diplomatic mask, Lisa was coordinating with Earth's intelligence services to gather every piece of information they could about Vorthak military installations, fleet movements, and command structures. Every detail would be needed for what was coming next. The galaxy had made its choice. When humanity asked for protection, they were told to accept their place as a minor species. When human colonies were attacked, they were told it was understandable. When human families were murdered, they were told it was a business opportunity. Now it was time for Earth to respond, not with diplomatic protests or economic sanctions, but with the terrible swift sword that humanity had been forging in secret. For half a century, in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, 12 ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen powered up their engines and began moving toward the edge of the solar system. The Ghost Fleet was going to war. And when they arrived at their destination, the Vorthak Collective would learn what happened when someone made the mistake of threatening human children. The quiet species from Sol was about to speak with a voice of thunder, and every civilization in the galaxy would hear the message. Humanity had tried peace first. Now they would see what came after. The Vorthak home system had never known the touch of war. For over 1,000 years, the massive military fleets of the Vorthak Collective had brought destruction to other worlds, while their own remained safe and untouchable. Vorthak Prime orbited its red star in perfect security, protected by the largest concentration of warships in the known galaxy. Fleet Admiral Zextar stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, watching the celebration taking place throughout the orbital stations around Vorthak Prime. Officers from 100 conquered worlds raised glasses of victory wine while planning their next campaigns. The successful destruction of the human colonies had earned Zextar promotion to the highest military rank in the collective. The humans have been taught their place, Zextar told his assembled commanders. Let this be a lesson to any other weak species that thinks they can claim territory that belongs to the strong. The galaxy belongs to those with the power to hold it. His officers cheered and drank deeper. None of them noticed the subtle distortions in space at the edge of their sensor range. None of them detected the 12 ships that materialized from quantum space like ghosts emerging from another dimension. Captain Emma Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, studying the tactical displays that showed the massive Vorthak fleet spread throughout the system. Over 3,000 warships of various sizes filled the space around Vorthak Prime, from small patrol craft to massive dreadnoughts that could flatten entire cities. Target analysis complete, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Carl Woods. We count 47 major capital ships, 312 heavy cruisers, and approximately 2,000 smaller vessels. Their orbital defense platforms number in the hundreds. Emma nodded calmly. The odds were roughly 250 to 1 against the Ghost Fleet. Under normal circumstances, it would have been suicide to attack such a force. But these were not normal circumstances, and the Ghost Fleet was not equipped with normal weapons. Signal all ships, Emma commanded. Begin the attack. Show them what happens when they murder our families. The Ghost Fleet struck like lightning from a clear sky. The UES Retribution appeared directly behind a massive Vorthak battleship, its quantum torpedoes already firing. The weapons passed through the enemy's shields as if they did not exist, phase shifting through normal matter until they reached the ship's reactor core. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star. Captain Alex Turner's ship, the UES Vengeance, materialized inside a formation of Vorthak cruisers. His directed energy weapons, powered by technology that bent the laws of physics, sliced through armored hulls like they were made of thin paper. 5 enemy ships died in the first seconds of his attack before they even knew they were under assault. On the UES Reckoning, Captain Sophie Blake coordinated her ship's AI targeting system with those of her sister ships. The artificial intelligence networks Dr. Nathan Price had developed worked faster than any organic mind could follow, calculating attack patterns and defensive movements with inhuman precision. Every shot found its target. Every maneuver was perfectly timed. The Vorthak fleet, caught completely by surprise, struggled to respond to an attack they could barely comprehend. Their sensors could not track the human ships reliably. Their weapons could not lock onto targets that appeared and disappeared at will. Their shields, designed to stop conventional energy weapons, offered no protection against quantum torpedoes that existed partially outside normal space. Admiral Zextar watched, in growing horror as his invincible fleet began to die around him. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries became expanding clouds of debris in minutes. The orbital fortresses that had protected Vorthak Prime since the dawn of their civilization crumbled under weapons they could not understand or counter. What are these humans? Zextar screamed at his tactical officers. Our intelligence said they were weak. How is this possible? His communications officer looked up from his station with fear written across his alien features. Sir, we're receiving reports from all sectors. Our entire home fleet is being destroyed. The humans are using technology we've never seen before. Zextar activated the emergency communication system that would alert every Vorthak military base in the galaxy. All forces converge on the home system immediately. We are under attack by unknown human forces. Repeat, Vorthak Prime is under attack. But even as he sent the call for help, Zextar knew it would come too late. The human ships moved through, his formations like death itself, appearing just long enough to deliver devastating strikes before vanishing back into quantum space. Nothing in the Vorthak arsenal could touch them. The UES Retribution suddenly appeared directly in front of the Eternal Conquest, close enough that Zextar could see the human ship's hull through his main viewer. For a moment, the two flagships faced each other in space, predator and prey recognizing each other across the void. Captain Emma Rodriguez opened a communication channel to the Vorthak flagship. Her voice, calm and cold, echoed through the Eternal Conquest's command deck. "Admiral Zextar, I presume. I am Captain Emma Rodriguez of the Terran Republic Navy. 3 months ago, you murdered 200,000 of my people, including my brother who lived on New Austin. Today you pay the price for that mistake." Zextar found his voice, though it shook with fear and rage. "You cannot destroy the Vorthak Collective, human. We are the strongest military power in the galaxy. We have conquered 1,000 worlds." "You were the strongest," Emma replied. "Past tense. Your reign of terror ends today." The quantum torpedoes from the UES Retribution struck the Eternal Conquest with surgical precision, targeting specific systems rather than destroying the ship outright. Zextar's weapons went offline first, then his engines, then his life support systems. The proud flagship of the Vorthak fleet became a drifting hulk in minutes. Throughout the Vorthak home system, the pattern repeated itself over and over. Ancient warships that had brought fear to 100 species died without firing a shot in their own defense. Orbital stations that had stood for centuries became funeral pyres. The greatest military power in the known galaxy was being dismantled, piece by 12 ships from a species they had dismissed as weak and harmless. Captain Sophie Blake's voice came over the Ghost Fleet's communication network. "All primary targets eliminated, secondary targets destroyed. Orbital defenses neutralized. Enemy fleet strength reduced to less than 10%. Emma checked her tactical display. In less than 2 hours, the Ghost Fleet had destroyed over 2,000 Vorthak warships and reduced their home system's defenses to scattered wreckage. The few surviving enemy vessels were fleeing toward the edge of the system, broadcasting surrender signals that no one was listening to. "Open a channel. To all frequencies," Emma ordered. "Let every ship, station, and planet in this system hear what I have to say." Her message went out across subspace communications, reaching not just the Vorthak survivors but news networks and intelligence services throughout the galaxy. When Emma spoke, her words would be heard on 1,000 worlds within hours. "This is Captain Emma Rodriguez of the Terran Republic Navy, commanding the Earth Defense Fleet. The Vorthak Collective chose to make war on humanity. They attacked our colonies and murdered our families. This is Earth's response to their aggression." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "To the survivors of the Vorthak fleet, you have 72 hours to evacuate all forces from human territory. Every colony world you attacked, every system you claimed from us, you will abandon completely. If any Vorthak military vessel is found in human space after that deadline, it will be destroyed without warning." Another pause, and then the words that would echo through galactic history. "To the rest of the galaxy, let this be a lesson. Humanity tried to live in peace with our neighbors. We followed your rules and accepted your limitations. We asked for your protection and received only empty words. Now you see what happens when you mistake our patience for weakness." Emma's final words were delivered with quiet finality. "We are no longer asking for your permission to exist. From this day forward, Earth and her colonies are under the protection of the Terran Republic Navy. Any attack on human citizens will be answered with total destruction. We have shown you what we are capable of. Do not make us show you again." The transmission ended, and the Ghost Fleet began to disappear back into quantum space, leaving behind the shattered remains of what had once been the galaxy's most feared military force. In a single engagement lasting less than 3 hours, 12 human ships had accomplished what entire alliances of species had failed to do over centuries of warfare. News of the Vorthak defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, species that had lived in fear, a Vorthak expansion celebrated in secret, while their governments tried to process what had happened. The quiet species from Sol had just demonstrated military capabilities that exceeded anything in recorded galactic history. On the Federation capital world, emergency sessions convened as leaders tried to understand how humanity had hidden such advanced technology for so long. The news of the Vorthak defeat reached every corner of the galaxy within 12 hours. Species that had never heard of humanity before suddenly found themselves studying star charts to locate Earth's position. The quiet species from Sol had just destroyed the most powerful military force in known space, and every government in the galaxy wanted to know how and why. Emperor Talvesh of the Alterian Empire stood in his private war room, staring at holographic displays that showed the aftermath of the battle at Vorthak Prime. For 3,000 years, his empire had been the dominant power in galactic politics. Alterian fleets had conquered hundreds of worlds, and Alterian diplomats had shaped the laws that governed interstellar civilization. Now, for the first time in millennia, the Emperor felt something he had not experienced since his youth. Fear. How many ships did the humans lose in the attack? He asked his military advisors. General Kethvar, the Empire's highest-ranking military officer, consulted his datapad with shaking hands. None, Your Majesty. Our intelligence sources confirm that all 12 human vessels escaped without significant damage. They destroyed over 2,000 Vorthak warships and suffered no losses of their own. The Emperor's face darkened. That is impossible. No military force in galactic history has achieved such results. What kind of weapons are the humans using? We do not know, Your Majesty. Our scientists have analyzed the battle recordings, but they cannot identify the technology. The human weapons appear to ignore conventional defenses entirely. Their ships can appear and disappear at will, making them nearly impossible to target. Emperor Talvesh turned to his intelligence chief, a cybernetically enhanced being called Director Mons. How long has Earth been developing these weapons? Unknown, Your Majesty. Our agents have been monitoring human space for decades, but they found no evidence of advanced military research. Either the humans have been hiding their capabilities with extraordinary skill, or they have made technological breakthroughs that our scientists cannot explain. The Emperor walked to the great window that overlooked his capital city. Below him, millions of Alterian citizens went about their daily lives, unaware that their empire's position as the galaxy's supreme power had just been challenged by a species most of them had never heard of. Contact Chancellor Velnara immediately, the Emperor commanded. I want an emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council within 48 hours. The humans must be brought under control before they upset the balance of power that has kept the galaxy stable for centuries. On New Geneva Station, Ambassador Lisa Morgan sat in her office, watching as her communication system lit up with incoming messages from dozens of alien governments. Diplomats who had ignored her for years suddenly wanted urgent meetings. Species that had never bothered to establish formal relations with Earth were requesting immediate audiences with human representatives. The Zenith Consortium, the galaxy's largest corporate power, had sent 3 different messages in the past hour. Director Prime, their enigmatic leader, wanted to discuss mutual economic opportunities with Earth's government. The same corporation that had seen the massacre of human colonists as a business opportunity was now scrambling to establish friendly relations with humanity. Lisa activated her private communication channel to Earth. Admiral Kate Sullivan's face appeared on her screen, speaking from the underground command center beneath the moon's surface. Admiral, I'm receiving dozens of requests for meetings from alien governments. They're all suddenly very interested in establishing better relations with humanity. Admiral Sullivan's expression was grim. I'm not surprised, Ambassador. Fear has a way of making people reconsider their opinions. What about the Federation leadership? Emperor Talvesh has called for an emergency session of the Council. I expect they'll demand that Earth surrender our new weapons and submit to Federation oversight. The same people who refused to help us when we were being attacked now want to control us because we defended ourselves. And what will you tell them? Lisa looked out at the stars visible through her office window. Somewhere out there, the Ghost Fleet continued its patrol, a reminder to the galaxy that humanity was no longer defenseless. I'll tell them the truth, Admiral. That Earth will not submit to the authority of governments that were willing to watch our people die. On Earth itself, emergency sessions of the unified government continued around the clock as world leaders debated humanity's response to the galaxy's reaction. President Marcus Chen stood before the Global Assembly, addressing representatives from every nation on the planet. For 200 years we have played by the galaxy's rules, President Chen said. We accepted limitations on our expansion, restrictions on our technology, and interference in our internal affairs. We did this because we believed that cooperation and peaceful coexistence were possible. He paused, looking out at the faces of the men and women who governed Earth's 12 billion people. The massacre of our colonists proved that our peaceful approach was seen as weakness by those who rule through fear and violence. The galaxy's response to our tragedy showed us that we cannot rely on others to protect our people. General Paul Jackson, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, stood to address the assembly. Mr. President, our intelligence services are reporting massive military mobilization by the Altarian Empire and their allies. They're assembling the largest fleet in galactic history. Their stated intention is to force Earth to surrender our advanced weapons and submit to Federation control. Secretary of State Helen Carter raised her hand. Mr. President, there may still be room for diplomatic solutions. Many species are reaching out to establish better relations with us. Perhaps we can avoid a larger conflict through negotiation. President Chen nodded thoughtfully. Secretary Carter, I appreciate your optimism. But we must face the reality that the galaxy's major powers will not accept our refusal to return to our previous status as a controlled species. They see our strength as a threat to their authority, and they will not allow that threat to exist. Dr. Nathan Price, who had been silent during most of the debate, finally spoke. Mr. President, I need to inform this assembly of the full scope of Project Prometheus. The Ghost Fleet that destroyed the Vorthak home defense was only the first phase of our preparations. The assembly fell silent as Dr. Price activated a holographic display that showed installations throughout the solar system. Hidden bases on asteroids, weapons platforms disguised as research stations, and facilities buried deep beneath the surfaces of Earth's moon and Mars. For 50 years we have been preparing for the possibility that humanity would need to defend itself against the combined might of galactic civilization. We have weapons capable of destroying entire star systems, defense networks that can protect our worlds from any attack, and manufacturing facilities that can produce warships faster than any enemy can destroy them. The implications of Dr. Price's revelation settled over the assembly like a heavy weight. Humanity had not just developed advanced weapons, they had built the infrastructure to fight a war against the entire galaxy if necessary. President Chen looked around the room at the shocked faces of Earth's leaders. The question before us is simple. Do we surrender our independence to maintain peace, or do we stand firm and face whatever consequences follow? Meanwhile, in deep space, Captain Emma Rodriguez received new orders from Earth Command. The Ghost Fleet was to be expanded immediately. 50 additional ships were nearing completion in the hidden shipyards of the asteroid belt, each one equipped with weapons that pushed the boundaries of known science. Captain Turner, Captain Blake, Emma addressed her fellow commanders over the secure communication network. Earth Command has authorized us to begin reconnaissance missions throughout Federation space. We're to make our presence known to any government that might be considering hostile action against humanity. Captain Alex Turner's voice came back over the channel. Rules of engagement? Defensive only unless directly attacked. But we're not hiding anymore. Let them see us. Let them know that humanity is watching, and that we're no longer the helpless species they could ignore or threaten without consequences. The expanded Ghost Fleet began to appear in star systems throughout the galaxy, their presence detected by sensors, but their exact capabilities still unknown. The psychological effect was immediate and profound. Species that had never considered humanity a threat suddenly found themselves reassessing their military preparedness. On the Vorthak homeworld, the few surviving military leaders worked frantically to evacuate their forces from human territory. The 72-hour deadline given by Captain Rodriguez was approaching, and no one doubted that the humans would carry out their threat to destroy any Vorthak vessel found in human space. Commander Sextar, rescued from his destroyed flagship, addressed the remnants of the Vorthak High Command. We have 48 hours to complete the evacuation of all military assets from human territory. Any commander who fails to meet this deadline will be responsible for the destruction of their own forces. The mighty Vorthak Collective, which had terrorized the galaxy for over 1,000 years, was retreating from the territory of a species they had dismissed as weak and insignificant just days before. But the greatest shock was yet to come. The largest fleet in galactic history assembled at the edge of the Sol system. Over 10,000 warships from dozens of species filled the darkness of space, their combined firepower enough to reduce entire star systems to ash. Emperor Talvesh had called upon every favor, every alliance, and every threat he could make to gather this massive armada. The Emperor stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Divine Authority, watching as the last of his allied vessels took their positions. Ships from the Altarian Empire formed the core of the fleet, their golden hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. The Zenith Consortium had contributed their corporate security fleets, sleek vessels designed for quick strikes and overwhelming force. Even species that had remained neutral for centuries had sent ships to join the armada. Signal all fleet commanders, Emperor Talvesh ordered. Begin the advance into human space. Today we restore the natural order of the galaxy. The massive fleet moved toward Earth like a wave of destruction, their sensors detecting no resistance from the human home system. Intelligence reports had confirmed that Earth possessed only a small number of defensive platforms and the mysterious ghost fleet of 12 ships. Against 10,000 vessels, the humans appeared to be hopelessly outmatched. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in Earth's orbital command center, watching the approaching fleet on her tactical displays. The enemy armada was impressive, she had to admit. Under normal circumstances, such a force would be unstoppable. But these were not normal circumstances, and Earth had spent 50 years preparing for exactly this moment. Admiral, called out her communications officer. We're receiving a transmission from the enemy flagship. Put it through, Admiral Sullivan replied calmly. Emperor Talvesh's image appeared on the main screen, his ancient face twisted with imperial arrogance. I am Emperor Talvesh of the Altarian Empire, speaking for the combined forces of galactic civilization. You will surrender immediately and submit to Federation authority, or face total destruction. Admiral Sullivan activated her own transmission, her voice carrying across space to every ship in the enemy fleet. This is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Terran Republic Navy. You have entered our home system without permission and with hostile intent. You have exactly 60 minutes to withdraw all forces beyond the orbit of Pluto, or face the consequences. The Emperor's laughter echoed across the communication channel. Admiral, you command a handful of ships against the might of the galaxy. Your ghost fleet may have surprised the Vorthak, but you cannot stand against 10,000 vessels. Surrender now and your species will be treated with mercy. 60 minutes, Admiral Sullivan repeated and closed the channel. Emperor Talvesh turned to his fleet commanders with confidence. The humans are bluffing. No single species has ever challenged the combined might of galactic civilization. Prepare to advance on Earth. We will crush their resistance and end this rebellion once and for all. But as the Emperor spoke those words, something was happening throughout the Sol system that would change his perspective forever. Hidden facilities that had been disguised as research stations, mining operations, and terraforming projects began to reveal their true nature. Jupiter's great red spot, the massive storm that had raged for centuries, suddenly changed. The swirling gases parted like curtains, revealing a weapons platform the size of a small moon. Energy readings from the giant planet spiked to levels that should have been impossible, as if Jupiter itself had become a weapon. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter erupted with activity as thousands of hidden installations came online. What had appeared to be mining operations revealed themselves as weapons platforms. each one capable of destroying entire fleets. Swarms of autonomous fighters launched from concealed bases, their numbers so vast they blotted out the stars. Mars, humanity's first colony world, opened like a flower in bloom. The planet's surface split along hidden seams, revealing orbital bombardment platforms that had been built into the world's crust itself. Energy cannons that could crack moons emerged from beneath the Martian soil, their targeting systems locking onto the approaching fleet. Even Earth's moon showed its true face. The lunar surface erupted as massive weapon emplacements rose from underground bunkers that had been carved out of solid rock decades ago. The peaceful satellite that had watched over humanity's cradle was revealed to be a fortress capable of defending the entire system. Captain Emma Rodriguez materialized on the bridge of the UES Retribution as the Ghost Fleet appeared throughout the enemy formation. But the 12 original ships were no longer alone. 50 additional vessels had joined them, each one equipped with weapons that pushed the boundaries of known science. Emperor Talvesh, Emma's voice cut through the chaos as the Federation fleet tried to process what they were seeing. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Terran Republic Navy. You came to our home system to threaten our families. Now you see what happens when you threaten humanity. The Emperor stared at his tactical displays in growing horror. His sensors were detecting energy signatures that shouldn't exist, weapons that his scientists had said were impossible to build. The entire Sol system had been converted into the most heavily fortified position in galactic history. This is impossible, the Emperor whispered. How long have you been preparing for this? 50 years, Admiral Sullivan's voice answered from Earth. 50 years of being told we were weak, that we needed to accept our place as a minor species. 50 years of watching stronger powers take what they wanted from weaker ones. We learned the lesson you taught us, Emperor. The galaxy belongs to those with the power to hold it. The first shots came from Jupiter's massive weapon platform. Energy beams that could ignite stars lanced out across space, striking the center of the Federation fleet. Entire squadrons of ships simply ceased to exist, vaporized by weapons that operated on principles the galaxy's best scientists had never imagined. The asteroid belt unleashed its swarms of fighters, autonomous weapons that moved with inhuman precision and speed. Each fighter was equipped with quantum torpedoes that could phase through any defense, and they attacked in coordinated waves that overwhelmed the Federation fleet's point defenses. Mars contributed its orbital bombardment, platforms, weapons that had been designed to crack planets but were now focused on the invading fleet. The red planet's surface blazed with energy as hundreds of cannons fired simultaneously, each shot carefully calculated to maximize damage to the enemy formation. Earth's moon added its own firepower to the devastating assault. The lunar weapons, platforms hidden for decades beneath the peaceful surface, emerged to rain destruction on the forces that had come to enslave humanity. Throughout the battle, the Ghost Fleet moved like death incarnate through the Federation formation. Captain Rodriguez's expanded fleet appeared and disappeared at will, striking with surgical precision at command ships and critical targets. The Federation fleet, designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers, found themselves unable to coordinate their attacks against an enemy that could appear anywhere at any time. Emperor Talvesh watched his mighty armada disintegrate around him. Ships that had conquered hundreds of worlds became expanding clouds of debris. The Divine Authority, protected by shields that had never been breached, suddenly found itself face to face with the UES Retribution as Captain Rodriguez's ship phased through the dreadnought's defenses. "Surrender," Captain Rodriguez offered, her voice calm despite the chaos around them. "Your fleet is beaten. Your empire is finished. Surrender now, and you live to see tomorrow." The Emperor looked around his bridge at the faces of his officers, seeing his own defeat reflected in their eyes. In less than an hour, the combined might of galactic civilization had been crushed by a single species that had been dismissed as weak and harmless. "I surrender," the Emperor said, his voice barely above a whisper. The battle ended as suddenly as it had begun. The surviving Federation ships, less than a tenth of the original fleet, huddled together in the outer system while their leaders tried to process what had happened. The galaxy's greatest military powers had been defeated by humanity's hidden arsenal. President Marcus Chen's voice echoed across every communication channel in the galaxy. His words broadcast to every inhabited world in known space. This is President Chen of the Terran Republic speaking to all sentient species throughout the galaxy. For too long, the strong have preyed upon the weak, while the galaxy's leaders look the other way. Today, that age ends. His words carried the weight of absolute authority, backed by weapons that had just proven their devastating effectiveness. Humanity will no longer tolerate aggression against our people or our allies. Any species that threatens the innocent, any government that rules through fear and oppression, any military force that attacks the defenseless will answer to Earth. The president paused, letting his words sink in across 1,000 worlds. This is Earth's final warning to the galaxy. We have shown you what we are capable of. We have demonstrated that the age of humanity's weakness is over. Strike against us again, and face total annihilation. We tried peace first. Do not make us show you what comes after. 1 year later, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition.